And call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Animal Services Advisory Committee. And we're going to start with public comment. The advisory committee takes public comment on all items in the regular agenda. Public input on regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the advisory committee at this time. The advisory committee may request an item to be placed on the future agenda or for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Then we'll move on then to the consent agenda. Consideration of approving the July 21st regular meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review those? If everything looks good, can I get a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, moving on. Regular agenda, public hearing and comment. Discussion and possible action related to the monthly shelter numbers for July and August of 2016.
Well, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome our two new members, Dr. Victor Schultze and Officer David Howard. Welcome aboard. Thank you for your service. Appreciate that. These are the July and August numbers. You can see that in July, we had 527 new entries. We adopted out 156. We had 22 owner returned, which gave us a 55% live release rate. No adoptable animals were euthanized again. It gives us 6 months in a row. And we did put down 336, mostly feral cats, but other sick and other issues. We were left with 196 into the month, and we had about 19 using the spay-neuter clinic. And then in August, you can see we had a little bit of a jump on new entries. We had mostly cats. We did have 194 adopted, a little bit more than we did the month before. And that was we did have a great push from the citizens there for a little while. They kind of really got us over the top. We had 29 owner returned. We had 54% live release rate. Again, no euthanized adoptable animals. And we had 353 ferals injured and all that euthanized. We had 181 left and 20 using our spay-neuter clinic. And I say that, and people have to understand, citizens need to understand that this is not a full service clinic. It is a spay-neuter clinic. We don't take and what we do is once the animal is released from the shelter, we ask the adopters to take it to their vets to take care of the other things. People need to understand that we are not a full service. That would entail a lot more staff. It would require more additional resources, and we're not geared for that. So this is strictly spay neuter, get the animals adopted out as quickly as possible, and that's where we have our vet. Just a reminder on that. And those are the numbers. I'll entertain any questions you have.
You're talking about the spay. That isn't just people that bring their pet in to get it spayed or neutered.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what I thought. He was saying adoptable animals, and I thought, you know what? Okay, never mind.
The surgeries performed total is never going to be on here. It'll be at least the 194 plus this 20, but we try to sustain about a 70%, 80% population ratio of ready-to-go alternate animals. So that's exactly what this is. Now, clinic can be something so simple as a microchip.
Or rabies
shot as well.
And those we offer.
Really?
We've offered those throughout for the longest time. It's been a standard for us to offer rabies shots. It's nothing new.
Okay.
And what's new is the spay neuter.
Right.
Okay.
That's what's new. And we do have a low-cost spay neuter program. People need to understand that. They can come to us, and we can spay neuter their animal if they meet income requirements.
Well, Bob, I'm just really proud that this has been, 6 months of no adoptable animals euthanized. So great job to staff.
Thank you. And it takes, like I said, I always keep saying, it takes a village. You know, it takes everyone, rescue groups, vets. It takes citizens. It takes everyone to kind of get to this. And since it's the board's committee's goal, we're working hard to try to make that a reality.
Is it possible, and I think we may have talked about this at one time, and forgive me if I've forgotten, but to pull the ferals out of that number, that 336, so that we get a better picture of what we're looking
In
at?
fact, let me.
Well, yeah, we have it broken down.
Oh, you do?
It's on the next page.
That feral category, that 336, for instance, I don't have my numbers from.
Anthony, could you give me the next slide? It's a hidden slide.
Oh, I see it now on our handout. I'm sorry.
It's the hidden one.
The feral category will always be in the upper 70s to 90%
It's right after this
of
one
that
here.
total number.
There's a hidden one. I'll start presenting this, but I wanted to make sure that you can see that one right there. It's got, I think, I'm gonna see if you guys like this slide, and we can use this as a straw man for future reports. Let me see if you can get up to the. There you go. Excellent. This is the breakdown of the actual euthanasia. You can see that the species, we had 244 feral cats, 106 dogs, and 7 wildlife. And you can see on the right side, you can see the reasons for aggressiveness, quarantine, failure to thrive. Feral is just not sick, and then injured, sick. A lot of the ferals that come in here are sick, unfortunately. And then we have owner request, wildlife, and then time and space. So that's the breakdown. I can start using this if you like. If you like this slide, we can start producing this every time at every meeting. So is this useful for you?
I think it'd be very useful to use. It just helps kind of break it down to where you can actually see that, you know, while the euthanized numbers are actually there, it actually shows what were and the reasons why, so that people can understand why there's actually no adoptable animals, and it can actually be more understood.
Okay, well, excellent. That's what we'll do from now on. This will be a slide that will be incorporated into the numbers.
I'd like to point out something important, though, is the time and space. 1 at the bottom is 0. That's, I think, is the more important goal, is to get down to we're not euthanizing animals due to space.
Absolutely right.
So that's a great goal.
And that is
Yes.
the committee's goal for long term. We're still sticking. We almost missed it last month, but there was a push, a media push. A lot of people got involved, and we were about to put down about 40, and they were taken. They were adopted out, and we were able to keep our numbers. Otherwise, that number would have said 40 if we had responded, if the community hadn't responded. So.
Yeah, I also like this format because I think it just, for educational purposes for the community, it helps them to understand what you're dealing with at the shelter. And we're not just talking about tame dogs that have come in. We actually have dogs with aggressive issues, bite issues, you know, the feral, the injured. So I think for just to keep with the transparency that you have been so good at, I like this format. And that, again, I want to reiterate what Dr. Schultze and Mo have said, that 0 on time and space is awesome. I'm really proud for you guys.
Excellent. Thank you.
I have a question. On a bite quarantine that was euthanized, is that because they never produced
No,
proof?
what happens a lot of times is if we need to do a rabies specimen test, we have to euthanize the animal, and unfortunately we have to send the head
Yeah, I know.
to get tested, and that's what happens. We do those. We've done about 62 in the last year and a half. It's something we have to do, unfortunately.
But that could include somebody that the dog bit somebody and the owner couldn't make proof that the dog had been vaccinated?
Not necessarily.
No, that could also be they just never claimed the animal. And since we have a bite history on that animal, we will not adopt it out.
What
So if
happens
it's not
if
redeemed in the 10
if
days.
somebody bites, a dog bites someone and they haven't been vaccinated?
Well,
just
that's the whole
quarantine
that's the whole
period
point
and
of
that's it?
quarantine. Right. Just because a dog doesn't have its rabies inoculation doesn't mean it's rabid.
No, I know that.
So, but for 10 days, we quarantine that animal to see any immediate changes to notify the victim.
Okay.
But a death in this category could be from someone that just, they left him there and they don't want him no more.
I
It
just
also
want-
could, you could also say it's an aggressive, some of those bite quarantines could be qualified aggressive, would be another way of looking at it, too.
And the only two places we allow quarantine is the shelter or at a vet location.
Right.
We used to allow home quarantines, but we had some problems with people following the rules, and so it is our option, and we've decided to focus on these two, either shelter or your vet, one or the other. A lot of people decide with the shelter, or some go with vet. It kind of depends on the individual.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, do we have any public comment on this item? Okay, then I will entertain a motion from the board to approve the report as presented for July and August of 2016. Motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
I need a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the report as presented for July and August of 2016. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, moving on now to item B, discussion and possible action related to leash laws within the city limits and signage at the parks.
I believe Ms. Bennett asked for information on the ordinances that cover leash laws, and I've got about 3 of them I'll go through. Under Section 303002, chaining of dogs prohibited as primary enclosure. And you can see what the verbiage is. The dog must be restrained by a leash while being walked outside of a fence or enclosed area. That covers basically anywhere in the city. And of course, if you look at the top one, it says it's unlawful for any person to chain or tether a dog for more than 24-hour period, except that, then it goes on to the leash. Okay, so they have to be leashed at all times. Another general provision under Section 305001, it says it shall be unlawful for any person to permit any dog, ferret, or pot-bellied pig possessed, kept, or harbored by him to be off his premises unless such dog, ferret, pot-bellied pig is restrained on a leash or chain held by a responsible person under that person's control. And that's another section that addresses leash laws.
Okay, so what's the penalty?
I'll turn it over to code compliance.
Huh? What
Well,
I'm asking, like this new park with the Red Arroyo Park. I mean, people take their dogs and they let them run.
Right.
And then they're pooping all over the place. And how do you control
We'd have to
that?
patrol. We'd have to patrol. If we catch it, we see it. We could cite. We have to have presence there, unfortunately. But it can be done.
But that's, it would help against the vandalism of these things too,
It sure will. And if you look at the last one here, it's under Section 902010, designated dog parks. It's relatively new, but you see number 3 says carry a visible leash at all times. Okay. Now some of these
That's
can
not
be
a dog park.
at the dog park. They can run. They can run without a leash.
Yeah, exactly.
But you gotta have it with you in case when you leave, you gotta leash it up. Okay. So you see someone there without a leash anywhere in their hand, and the dog's running around. As soon as they leave, there's not leashed up. They have violated the ordinance. I believe that's
We
how
don't
it
have
works.
one of those yet.
We don't, but we will be. In fact, that's the next item right there. Is
I
an
know.
update on it. So those are the three. Those are the 3 ordinances that cover the leash laws here in San Angelo. And I'll entertain any questions and concerns.
Like I say, how are you, what's the penalty and how are you gonna enforce it?
Well, I think your question's twofold here. I'll start with the first. When we deal with a complaint and or a proactive enforcement aspect from animal control from a tethering standpoint, we document the time that we view the dog tied up. In real police world, Mr. Howard could attest to this. You have districting that goes on, so animal control officers have a district that they should maintain. They're not to technically get out of that unless there's immediate danger or some type of need. And it forces you to manage this immediate district versus having a guy just driving all over town and wasting gas or whatever. But document the time you see it tethered. Come back and document it if it's still tethered, say 45 minutes later. Come back. It's kind of monotonous, but we do have to verify in a court of law that that thing was tied up for 2 hours. If that's the case, typically speaking, we issue a warning citation. Those work. We hang a door knocker. They call, hey, what the heck are you talking about? We let them know you can't have your animal tied up for more than 2 hours. Subsequent violations, we take that warning citation, we file it to municipal court as a bona fide citation. So you're up to a $500 Class C misdemeanor fine at that point. That's set and regulated by the municipal court, not us. The second part of it, you know, we're anticipating, I've got some openings today that we're interviewing for from an ACO standpoint. The dog park will throw a little bit of extra kink in our current process, but I think we will find worse violations than your concern. My fears is dumping of animals because it's a safe place. Somebody's going to come pick them up. We don't know yet. We can't say nothing until we get there, but we definitely are working internally on a process to come up with some type of enforcement aspect or a monitoring. I hate to say the word enforcement. I think typically people that go to a dog park are going to be responsible people. However, there is irresponsible people in this community that will go use it for other purposes. So I think we do need to have a presence there in the event puppies are dropped off. July, 106 degrees outside. You guys know that it's vital to get there fast. So the officer in that respective district will probably have some type of mandates on file to follow, to include monitoring that location. So we hope that's the worst of what we see with the dog park.
Okay, but you've missed what I asked.
What'd you ask?
About, about the Red Arroyo Park, and people just letting their dogs run loose. How will that, they don't get tethered out there.
She's not talking about the dog park itself. She's talking about the new Red Arroyo Trail. It runs from Sherwood down to Knickerbocker.
Well, I mean,
she's
that's
more
for any
concerned
park.
about that one right there.
It could be
right,
the
any
dangerous
park.
loop around the lake. I mean, if somebody was walking their dog and it's not on leash, again, if we see that, or someone calls that in, a
It
response.
can be called in.
Absolutely. Any
Okay.
violation of ordinance can be called in.
Okay. Who do you call, y'all or the police department?
No, you call us.
Okay. See, that was, their Crime Stoppers is wanting to know this, is why I'm
Yeah.
asking.
And I could, if you'd like, on additional agendas or something, I'll be more than happy to meet with those people, because I think it's.
Would you come to our meeting?
Absolutely. That was one of
Okay.
our biggest reasons for asking Mr. Howard or someone of his staff to be on this board.
And maybe just as a public notification, sometimes the general public may not know these things, and they may assume that the Red Arroyo Trail is also considered part of the dog park, because it does run through the same general area. Maybe posting signs saying animals are not allowed off leash here. Maybe by doing simple education, you don't have, a sign's cheap, but the person actually monitoring it is expensive.
Yeah.
So maybe by doing a passive way of enforcement through posting of signs, that might be a better way of addressing it.
Absolutely.
And I believe there will be signage. I talked with, in fact, it's the next item, but there's going to be signage in the area to let people know what's allowed, what's not allowed, so.
Any other comments on item B? Okay, I'll open it up to public comment. Do we have any public comment on item B? Okay, moving right along then, item C, update on the city's dog park.
Okay, this came to me from a company, and well,
we're
I
on
hate
the
to
city-
interrupt. I think you're on
city
something
dog park.
different here.
We're on the city dog park.
okay. Oh, the update.
The
That's right,
update,
okay.
yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Got here.
No problem.
Okay, Carl White, I talked to him. He said it's going to be, the plan is to be opened up in October. They're close to opening up. They've got everything in place. According to.
Where is it?
I'm sorry?
Where is it?
It's over towards the Red Arroyo. You want a map of that? I could get a map if you
Yeah,
wanted to.
I didn't even know we had a location for one
Oh, we
yet.
do. We have a location, and it's almost ready to be opened. What I can do for you, what I'll do is after this, I'll get a map and I'll send it all to the committee, so they'll see exactly where it's going to be.
Thank you.
And I did talk to Mr. White, and he did say he's going to post the appropriate signage. And that was one of your concerns. Is there enough signage out there? And I think Dr. Schultze brought that up as well. I think the answer is yes, there should be. And I think there'll be a point, I think, where our Animal Services will probably do a blitz area. I would just kind of go there at a certain time, just kind of just let people know that you've got to follow the rules. And I think that's the way to do it because, onesie twosies is tough, but if you do it a couple of times, if you just kind of blitz it, you get people start realizing that they're going to follow through, we're going to enforce, and they'll take the appropriate action, I believe.
There was a recommendation or a suggestion I made early on, and I've talked to Amy Mazzell Flint about this a little bit as well. I think because this is going to be so brand new to everyone, and knowing how few people actually have their pets spayed and neutered in this community, and how many people are actually current on vaccines in this community, that when the grand opening does take place, that there's an information booth, and maybe that people have to sign up. I'm not talking about charging, but come in and provide proof of vaccines, proof of their spay and neuter before they're allowed to have access to the park on that first day, to kind of set the standard that people know that this is what you expect to happen at that park. Because I know it's impossible to police it at all times, but it would be great if people were kind of aware that, hey, I can't just bring my 6-week-old puppy out here and throw it out here.
It's got to be spayed neutered.
Because once parvo, like all of us know, once it's in that
Yes.
soil out there, it'll be out there. So I think it's really important that we do something, maybe as this committee, working in conjunction with some of the rescues, do some education right before this grand opening, just to kind of set the tone of what should happen at this park. I know some communities have a membership. It's a free membership, but to utilize the park, you have to have proof of vaccines and microchip and spay neuter, whatever those ordinances are in that community. You have to have proof to be in compliance with those, and then you have free access to the park whenever you want, but it is a membership type thing. So that might be something to look at before we get to that October opening.
I can discuss it with Mr. White and see what his take is. I mean, it could be potentially a way of doing that. Yes, sir.
And I just have a question. Is the dog park going to be fenced, or is it going to be
Yes.
just okay?
It'll be
I
fenced.
just didn't know that, so I just
Yes, it'll
wanted
be
to ask
fenced.
that
There'll be
question.
benches. There'll be some. I think that there'll be some little obstacle course things there. It's. I was going to ask Mr. White to come, but it was from last month, so we pushed it to this month. So we just couldn't make it. But anyway, that's the plan.
I would recommend, if we did something like that, that we publicize that before the very first day, because there's nothing worse than to have an exciting time, a brand new park. You show up and they're like, well, you don't have these documents, go home. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
there's just there would be a lot of negative publicity with that if we did that, making people bring stuff and we didn't push that out to the public.
We could make it just strictly a informational booth to let people know that that's what you have to do. We wouldn't require anything at that point, but then perhaps the follow-on days we would start. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. Again, it's not my park. It's Mr. White is in charge of that. So all we can do is bring it up to him and see what he says.
Who is he?
He runs parks. He's the director for Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
Another
I think as a staff, we've jumped the gun on both these issues. Obviously, we have a very nice adoption trailer. It will be there on grand opening / an information booth. I don't anticipate any type of enforcement probably for the first couple of months. It needs to be an educational format. I totally believe that before you go face a $500 fine. But it's in the back of our heads, and we're getting close because it's September. So we've been talking about it as a staff and trying to figure out, it'll be heightened. There is a lot of people that call in complaints and issues with animals. We fend about 700 calls a day. So I anticipate, a flood coming from there. The problem is going to be a lot of it's going to be after hours, I would anticipate as well, a lot of weekend stuff. So we're really gearing up internally to handle that, but I want the citizens, the board, and staff to know that it's going to be an information basis type of thing first. I think that's key to it. We did it when we opened up spay neuter. We gave people 6 months for the microchip spay neuter. Today, people are facing citations for not having it, and I think 6 months is enough. So.
And I agree, except I think the vaccination side of that is so important.
That is very vital. You're right.
Because if they show up and they're not rabies vaccinated and there's an altercation between dogs and a human gets involved in that, it could be catastrophic for the first
I
you
can
know,
work
for
with
your
Anthony
grand
Wilson
opening.
from a
So,
public information standpoint, and maybe as the date of grand opening gets sooner, we can put blurbs about that and stress it and hope people do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's important.
And one thing to consider is if you're worried about vaccinations, nothing better than having a big event, big opening to have, gather, there are veterinarians that are willing to do, especially if it's on a Saturday or weekend, rabies vaccination clinics, things like that. If you want to have something like that, if you get in touch with your local community as far as that goes, or even the shelter wanted to provide some of that just for an educational purpose, just to get people aware of what's going on and to help vaccinate the ones that are not going to get vaccinated otherwise, would not be a bad idea. So.
That's a great idea, so I'm going to put you down for that grand opening.
We have a volunteer.
Yeah,
I
never
think.
That's a
say
great
anything you're
idea.
not willing to do. So.
I was
a
just
great
thinking
idea.
maybe we could do that ahead of time. Maybe we could find out when they're looking for this grand opening, and the week prior we do a big event maybe at the location, and it's not really open for the public yet, and just really promote it and let people know, hey, if you want to utilize this park, come get your pets current on their vaccines and be ready for the grand opening next weekend, and maybe do something like that. But that is a real concern I have, is everybody showing up, because the dog park, I think, is going to get a lot of attention, and it's a very positive thing. But I think with people not being educated and not doing what they need to do for their pets, it could turn bad. So I just want to be proactive.
Another thing to remember is that, this is you're looking at it as a short term. The problem is it will be a long term. But there are things such as World Rabies Day, which is when lots of people do rabies vaccinations, hold rabies clinics. You can always make it an annual event to do such items on that part.
Well, I think
Or
the
constant
partner would be
outreach.
great. As you well know, we've entered into some form of veterinarian work as a city, and we vowed to not interfere with the private sector veterinarians. But I think in this case, we could be very successful in, and I'm just throwing you out there, utilizing my staff. We've got vet techs, we've got people that can do some wellness checks. You're at the end of the table offering some type of lower cost, and that's totally up to you. And we advertise that in conjunction with. So I think that's a great idea. I'm all for that.
Think we do it?
Yeah, we will do that. Well, if you want to explore that, I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. And
Sure. No, definitely. I'd be
the
more than happy to.
advertisement going now. Sure.
This is more of, if we're wanting to have a successful introduction,
Absolutely.
if you're wanting to
It
make
takes
sure to
everybody,
reduce these
unfortunately.
problems, these are the times to do these items. These are
Sure.
times to get this done. So
bet.
most definitely be interested.
Great idea.
But we don't have a date. We don't have a grand opening date yet.
No, we do not.
Okay.
He has not. What I'd like to do, if it's depending on what date it is, I'll ask Mr. White to come give us a briefing, okay? Do a presentation on it.
Fair enough.
Okay, next time. Hopefully it'll be within timeline, so I'm not sure when he's planning on it, but if it fits, great, we'll get him out here.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, I'll open it up for public comment. Do we have any public comment on the dog park? Okay, moving on then to item D, discussion and possible action on allowing Sign AD to place a billboard on shelter property.
Okay, we had a company came to me asking if they could place a billboard on our shelter property, and then we would get a little bit of free advertisement or even rent it out if we needed to. And of course, I jumped the gun a little bit. We cannot do is right now this is just a concept. If it's something that we would be interested, we'd have to it has to go through planning to make sure the zone is correct. It has to go through legal. It has to go through our real estate folks. It has to go through council. It's a long process. But the question is, do you think staff is it worth staff pursuing something like this? So that's the question I posed to you. When I thought about it, I thought perhaps we could put our spay-neuter requirement up there. A big sign that says, San Angelo is a spay-neuter required place. Something that catches the eye, but it's the law. Let people know that it's against the law not to have your animals, pets neutered, spay-neutered. So,
Pay for this.
well, I can't talk about specifics because that is what we can do is talk about if we wanted to do this. Well, what would we want to see? Perhaps we would want to see something like have some kind of annual payment back that we could use to help promote more additional education, or we could have guaranteed, lengths of time that we can actually post our stuff, or we can actually rent it out. I'm not sure how much that would be. But what we would do is if it's a good idea, we'll go out and get proposals from companies We'll bring them in, and then we'll have to go through that process. And ultimately, it has to go to council for that.
Electronic?
No, well, it could be, but in this case, this would be, I envision it just to be the basic billboard, where you paste your information on there and, you rent it out for so much long and all that.
Bob, for clarification's sake, are we talking about the blue shelter sign or these two Lamar-looking signs?
The two big ones, the front.
Okay. Those aren't currently owned by somebody?
That's just that's nothing. That is, it was implanted in there to show you what it would look like.
Okay.
This-
That's what
they
threw
don't
me off, 'cause
exist.
I drive that road every day, and I've never seen that sign.
So,
New technology lets you do that kind of
Wow,
stuff.
pretty cool.
so just kind of as a clarification here, there'd be a double signage similar to what's seen here on the screen, and that some of the arrangements could be used to either advertise and promote, various programs, things of that nature, or actually get, reimbursement for a piece of property that, let's all be in honesty, is making nothing in return and being used for minimal value except for mowing the lawn. Correct?
That's exactly right.
So I would propose that would be something to look into. It's a passive event, and possibly it also give better signage to the shelter when people drive out there. I don't know how many have actually driven by that recently. It's not as easy to see from the highway, and by the time you get closer to it, it's a little bit more difficult, at least for newer people that don't know where exactly to be looking. So for new residents to the town, we've had quite a few people come by and ask us, where is the shelter? We know it's out this direction, but we've driven by it like 7 times, haven't found it. So
'Cause our shelter sign is pretty small. You think about it; it is hard to see. If I had my druthers, I'd like to have a billboard for ourselves, so we can just manage it ourselves. But in this case, we'd have to open it up to companies and let them compete and see what kind of best proposals we can get. If you think it's a good idea to pursue, it's a courtesy I bring to you. So before we march forward and do anything.
This location is prior to the shelter, like as you're driving?
It can be, yes.
Okay.
It's towards the end. It'd be the south end of where the trails are? The little trail I put, the walking
yeah.
trail.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on that side, yeah.
Gotcha.
That end over there.
fair enough.
There's nothing to vote on. I think it's just whether or not, I want to get consensus
This isn't-
on what you think, if it's worth pursuing. That's all I want to know. If I could just hear from you and see what you all think.
Okay. Let's start down with Dr. Schultze then. Do you think this is something that we need to move forward with?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Mo?
I do as well, especially, looking at what the shelter will gain from this. I think it's a good thing.
I agree. Anything that is going to bring more attention to the shelter is a good thing.
I have one question. I thought we were looking for a new place to put a new shelter.
Sign with us.
I don't think so.
I rest my case.
Um,
We are.
premature, I think.
That's a long-term goal. about
Well,
a
I thought
5-year
that
plan.
was one of our 5-year goals.
5-year plan, yes.
Yeah,
But a
okay.
new facility could be in the same location. A new facility could be in the same location.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought we were
yes.
gonna try to
Well-
find a new location also that was more in town.
If possible, but.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the druther and the consensus was to build a new building closer into the community areas,
Okay,
not out in the county.
okay, so we're not wasting money doing this.
Well, I think if whatever company wins this, they're going to rent it out to, ABC, Federal Credit Union or whatever. They're going to rent it out. So there's a chance for us to use it at certain times. That's what I
It's
envision.
not ours, it's whoever puts it in.
Right.
correct.
Yeah, whatever company wins that bid, it would be their. All we do, what I would request is that we're allowed to advertise on it at some point.
Well, it's not gonna cost us nothing.
And it will cost us nothing. And what I would do is I would make sure that we have some kind of revenue coming in. And that's something that, again, they'd be the proposals, and we choose the proposal, which is the best, which meets our needs. There we go with that. But the concept is billboards. I've thought about that, not just here, but other places. On Bryant, coming into
Yeah.
city, coming, on the North Bryant, coming in from, especially from there, because we get a lot of animals from Grape Creek.
Yeah.
Coming into that side of the city, I would love to see people, I'd like to see a sign that notifies the driver coming in that this is a requirement, this is a local law, that your animals are spayed neutered. I mean, they have to know that. It's the law. And people aren't catching on to that. They try to come up with all kinds of defenses, like, I'm going to become a breeder. Well, if you're not a breeder now, guess what? You violated the law. You need to do it before, So anyway, that's my vision. Have one there, maybe one on the south side of the main thoroughfares. And this is a major thoroughfare, so it'd be a good pilot, step to start moving that way.
Bob, can I clarify something really quick? What we're actually talking about is leasing property to a sign company to allow them to put up a billboard sign. And part of the lease will be a lease payment like most of our leases has. Typically, those real estate leases, that money goes into the general fund. So whether or not it actually goes directly, all of it directly goes to benefit the shelter is going to be an unknown that council's going to have to decide. And also, the terms are typically just cash. However, there can be a negotiation where they do allow your use of the sign at no charge for certain periods as part of that. So that is some of the benefit that the animal shelter could get. But I don't want there to be a misconception that you guys are saying, yes, we want to put a sign on this property and it all is going to benefit the shelters. There's no guarantee that that is going to be the case as far as the funding is concerned.
Even if the funding isn't, even if there's no funding from it per se in the form of cash, if there's an ability to work in the signage just for use of sign for X number of months or whatever time period, that would be a benefit regardless. So
That's
we
definitely
could-
direction we can take to council when we take them whatever determination.
And don't forget, we could be a leaser too. We could lease that place as utilize it with that company and for 6 months or so, lease it for 6 months and put up our signs. We can do that too. And maybe that's one way to look at it.
Will there be a regulation on who could use it?
That would be the company decision, not us.
I mean, because I wouldn't want Desiree's to be able
Oh,
to
yeah, I got you.
advertise out there.
That's something that can be stipulated. That's something that can be stipulated. You won't.
We really, as a governmental
family-friendly.
entity, can't stipulate those kind of restrictions on signs. That's unconstitutional for us to be able to say. That's a speech issue. So no, we would not have any control necessarily about what
So
who they're
anybody
leasing.
could,
But if it's our property, can we put a?
We're a governmental entity and we are prohibited from infringing on
Well,
the
there you
speech
go.
of others.
That's the answer. But as the proposals come in, though, I mean, couldn't that be a judging
No,
factor?
sir. We can talk about this later.
Okay.
I defer to legal because I do not want to go to jail. So whatever she says is correct.
okay.
In favor of using signage if we can.
I would agree.
So it sounds like we have an agreement to, we'll press forward, we'll start investigating, and then we'll come back to, when we start getting some things, I'll bring it back to you for an update.
I think the general consensus, though, is that if it can be beneficial to the shelter by utilizing that for education purposes once a quarter or whatever, to bring attention to the shelter, then it's a win-win. So, okay. Do we have any public comment on this item?
I'm Russell Krause. I'm with one of the sign companies that might possibly be bidding, and we originally came to the city with the proposal. And in regards to the content on the signs, as being a private company and all, in our leases, we write out that there are no sexually oriented businesses, alcoholic beverages, tobacco products of any type that we allow on our signs. So it is something that can be worked out on the lease to where the private company controls that, and that way there's no issues with the free speech. Additionally, there's monetary compensation for allowing the sign on the site, and then in addition to possible advertising use or to advertising use on the sign itself, where at that location, there's options to also advertise on other locations in the market as well. But that's how we commonly approach these when we're working with landowners.
Thank you for that.
Good, thank you.
Because I don't think we were aware of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, moving on then. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Second for to adjourn.
I'll say.
All those
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
And all those opposed? Okay, we are adjourned at 12:40. Thank everyone for coming.